Hello, I want to talk about paranoia and how it's a byproduct of being targeted and how it comes about from the situations that have happened, druggings and street theatrics and the stalking that's happened at the start have all been contributors to making me extremely paranoid. And it's more or less a self-defense mechanism. All my paranoias are pretty logical. I've got them for reasons, and I'll use examples of why I've got paranoias for specific things. I'll start off with my drinks and food being spiked or drugged on dates like Easter and Christmas and other holiday type dates, what you're gonna remember. And the reason it's done is so you remember on them dates, so it triggers off a fear response when Christmas or Easter etc come round. So I'll use an example of when I was put in prison, and I was put on a hospital wing in prison because I was recovering from a bleed on the brain, and it was Easter, the day I was drugged. It could have either been a prison officer, a nurse from the hospital wing, or it could have been a prisoner serving the food, because I was given water through the door by the prison officers. I was given painkillers by the nurses for my recovering from the bleed on the brain, and food obviously from the prisoner. So any one of them, it could have been one out of three of them that had drugged me. Anyway, I was just laying there and this mad trip just came on, like all in one massive amount, where the walls were all moving around and oozing about everywhere. It was like melting wax. All the writing on the walls, you couldn't read it because it was just spinning about all over the place. And this trip lasted, and all these different colours going off and stuff, dark colours, but like in blobs and globules. And this lasted about 12 hours, but I was still getting like little trippy bits out the corners of my eyes for about 24 hours after that. And that was on Easter. So that's an example of why you're going to start fearing specific dates like Easter. This is why I don't like to know what date it is. Any day. I just don't like to know the date, because then you can't have a trigger set, so the date doesn't come around the next year and you don't go, oh, this happened to me that year, this time last year, let's hope it doesn't happen again. So a side effect of that, you drink being drugged, is paranoia. And you're going to be paranoid of what's in your drink and who serves you your drink, and what's in your food, who serves you your food. You're gonna just want to make your own drinks and make your own food, which I do, and I watch my drink like a hawk if it's in the room with anybody else, and so on. I'll use other examples. Also in prison, I was drugged again in the food. Not that a few months, I would say, after that, with some highly potent other type of hallucinogen, where it turned all the prisoners that were around me into cartoon characters, basically. And the amount of fear that rushed over me, it was intense. It was like some sort of psychoactive, fear-inducing hallucinogenic, but it only lasted a few hours, and it wore off. But that scared the heck out of me. It was like it just induced tons of fear that just came over me all in one go. So that was another time. But I've been spiked with hallucinogenics out of prison too. So I'm going to be wanting to watch my food and my drink. That's a logical thing to do. You just, it's logical to watch your food and your drink. Sorry about the messages coming through. I can't do out to help that because I can't record off my video camera because it won't upload. I can't use any other video thing because none of it seems to want to upload. It keeps uploading part of the way and failing. So yeah, so I'll use examples of food making me wary as well, even if it's been ordered. I've like ordered food off the internet before because I didn't want to go to the shops. I was worried about street theatrics happening and things going on. So I stayed in for a hell of a long time, and either my mum would do the shopping or I was just ordering it off the internet. But if we got it delivered, I'll use this as an example. I got a load of burgers and it had a cellophane wrapper over the top, and there was a pinhole stuck through the centre of each burger through the cellophane, so I discarded them. I've also noticed with cereal packets, the outer box has been completely sealed. I've undone the outer box, pulled the bag out to check it, like you would do because you're paranoid of your food being drugged and that, and there'd be a tiny slit like just in the inside of the packet, so that would be discarded. And that's happened to cereals on a number of occasions that I've found. So that's not good. So you can't order off the internet and get your food because it could be tampered with, because goodness knows who's in charge of it before it gets to you, or who's intercepted it before it gets to you. So, but going to the supermarket, you're worried about street theatrics and other things happening. So this thing induces massive amounts of worry and paranoia, because you're also paranoid not only of your food and your drink being drugged and poisoned on other occasions, and it's been like I've not only been given hallucinogenics, but I've also been given drugs that have knocked me out on a number of occasions too. So that I've got perfect reasoning to want to watch my drinks, and I think if it's happened to other targeted individuals, they've got perfect reason to watch their drinks too. So, and their food. So it's a natural self-defense mechanism, but also you get paranoid about going out because you wonder how the heck the street theatrics have been orchestrated before you get to a place whilst the people are there and ready to do an act or a skit and talk about what's happened to you a few hours before or the day before, or what you've spoke about on the phone or whatever. So you're thinking there's got to be a neighbour that's either seen me go out and alerted these people. There's got to be some device censoring whether you've left the house. Your phones must be tapped. So you're paranoid about all that. So you also get paranoid of when you're on the phone, you've always got the feeling there's someone else listening to your conversation, always, which is mimicking a mental illness like schizophrenia and so on. But it's not, because these things have happened to induce you to think that way, that you know you're being listened into or watched no matter what. You know you're being monitored because they've shown you on numerous occasions over the years, continuously. They've continuously shown you that you're being watched. So you're paranoid about that. And then there's other paranoias that could be You could even get paranoid going back to the house if you've been out, because on a number of occasions I would get back to the house and the fire alarm would go off. There was no smoke inside the house or anything like that, but the fire alarm would go off, and it was a really loud, powerful fire alarm. And after I'd had street theatrics out there anyway, coming back and a fire alarm going off was just an extra strain on the heart, where your heart would just pound like mad. So that must have been turned on remotely. So you're thinking, crikey, these people have some form of remote control over what's in the house that you're living at. So you're constantly worried about what's going to happen. It also went off on Halloween, and I think that was to try triggering me for Halloween. It went off at about midnight on Halloween, which made me jump. But that's what it's there for. It's to keep you in a state of stress and anxiety and in a flight or fight response constantly. So it's very hard for you to think properly, and you're going to be in a state of continuous confusion, sort of. So all them paranoias are completely logical to have. It'd be illogical for you not to be paranoid about your drinks and your food, and you have to cook your own food and make your own drinks and cook for anyone else if they offer to cook for you, because you're wary that what if this could happen again. It's not that you suspect the people of doing it, but it's because you worry that it could happen again, and you could have a mind-altering drug given to you, and then someone could use it as a method to section you, or whatever. I think most of the reasons why this thing is done is to just induce a lot of fear and stress and confusion. But they've definitely got a method in which they know when you leave the house, and your calls are definitely being listened into a lot of the time, because that's how the conversations get relayed back to you and stuff. So it makes you feel watched constantly. You feel watched even no matter what you do. You constantly feel that there's someone watching you because of the things that have happened. So yeah, paranoia builds up. I've been getting, this induces paranoia as well. I've been getting bangs at the door, just one bang, and people are running off. This morning I got it, bang. It was like a big whack at the door. It made me jump because my chair's right next to the door. It's only a small room, so I've got to put my chair somewhere, and that's the only place it'll really fit, my sofa. So bang, made me jump, made my heart pulsate. And I could hear the footsteps running off, because it's like a main street and we're right on the level of the street, so you can feel and hear the footsteps. And it was a kid. You could tell it was a kid running off. So, I mean, people are directing their kids to do this, because I've had about 10 bangs at the door this month, and it's just been the one bang. Also, when it was snowing the other day, I had someone throw a snowball at my door, and I thought, my door, out of all the other doors there is, I looked out the window and the kid was still there scraping the snow off the car bonnet. But these are kids that are involved in this stuff too. They obviously don't know what they're getting themselves into, but that's going to induce paranoia. You're going to be waiting for a bang at the door all the time when you're in your living room, so it puts you off feeling comfortable anywhere you are. And that's what it's designed to do, unfortunately. So it gets really hard for any targeted individual. So I'm saying all this really to try and get non-targeted individuals to realise this stuff goes on, and it's drip-fed harassment to you, which builds up in your mind and builds up in your physical body, stress-wise too. And it's horrible for these people. Yes, we may have acquired mental illnesses on the way, and a lot of us have gone loopy, and a lot of us have gone extremely paranoid, but the paranoia is a byproduct. It's a self-defense mechanism. I wash all my can lids. I make sure I wash all my can lids, but everyone should do that, because they could have had rats pee on the tops of them in the storage units they're at. So it's a good thing to wash the tops, especially because you can catch some nasty illnesses and even die from it. So I advise everyone to do that. So yeah, you've built up all these paranoias and these triggers along the way. So each thing is going to trigger you at different times. So if you're with other people, they're not going to know what your triggers are. They're not going to know what type of street theatrics have been done to you in the past and might be repeated again in a similar sort of situation or a similar way. So you're going to get triggered off. Your heart's going to be pumping like mad, and you're going to be around people that you probably trust and stuff, but they're not going to have a clue, and you're going to try and tell them, and they're just going to be like, what? That doesn't make any sense, because it's drip fed to you over weeks, months, and years. So it's hard for us to have any chance to get people to believe us. But what I want to do is in future videos is reconstruct what has happened with a couple of people, just to show how it works. I'm surprised other people haven't done this, actually, because all you need is a couple of people. But I suppose it's because we're isolated. But now we've got TITV and stuff, people are starting to get together more, and there's more what's the word? We're building up TI friends around the place, all over the UK, and I suppose all over the world too. So that's a really good thing. I think the next step is for us to start reconstructing elements of what have happened from all different people's types of street theatrics, because there's infinite possibilities to be used. There's infinite methods that they can use on you, depending on what's been told to you the day before, and what's happened to you the day before, what you've heard the day before, or what you've heard a couple of hours before, and so on, and what you've said. They can use it all to their advantage. So you're bound to be paranoid that your phone's tapped. You're bound to be paranoid that someone knows when you're leaving the house. Neighbourhood watch scheme or something, looking out the window. Someone spotted you leave the house, or they know somehow that the house has been left. It's normally worse if you make plans to get to a specific place at a specific time, though. They seem to like to they can get you much easier that way, I reckon. So I think if you just were to run out of the house at a random interval, you wouldn't have it happen. It's not happened to me when I've done that, or just left the house real quick at random times. It's not happened to me. Yeah, so it's getting to about 20 minutes, so I'll leave it here, and hopefully it's helped anyone that's got paranoia like me. It's not a mental illness, it's not schizophrenia or anything like that. It's paranoia because of the things that have happened to you, and the only thing you can do is be paranoid about your drinks and that, to stop them being drugged in the future, especially if you've been drugged on numerous occasions. So thank you for watching and that, and thanks to all my people for subscribing, and thanks for all the good comments and helpful comments that people have left me, which have been very helpful physically and mentally.